Your empathy is a gift until it becomes a liability. When you feel everybody's pain is your own, you're not helping them, you're just adding to the world's suffering. Let me show you the balance. If you're a late bloomer or you're just deeply empathetic, you've developed this capacity to feel the pain of others. And you thought this was a gift. It is a gift until it isn't, because left unchecked, this capacity has tremendous costs. The costs of carrying far more pain than you can handle. There is a balance, a way to care deeply without drowning in the suffering of others, a way to connect to their pain without it becoming debilitating for you. The problem isn't empathy really, it's too much empathy, too much capacity to feel. So let me give you the equation. Empathy equals I feel with the other. In other words, empathy means that you're taking on the pain of the other, you're taking on their suffering, you're embodying their pain, it becomes your experience. And empathy is absolutely beautiful in the right doses because it allows you to connect to another, it allows you to fully see them, it allows you to experience what they're experiencing. Again, where it becomes debilitating is when you feel too much with the other and it becomes your pain. It's like jumping in the water to save somebody who cannot swim, but you also can't swim. So now there are two people drowning. So how do you still experience some empathy without completely merging with it, without becoming disabled and debilitated because there is so much that you feel that you cannot even function in the world? There's so much maybe sadness in you, sorrow, or even anger that it modifies your behavior. How do you balance that? How do you counterbalance that? As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there is a way to counterbalance it, and it's called compassion. Let me give you the equation for compassion. Compassion equals I feel for the other. I feel for the other. Now, do you see the difference? Empathy equals I feel with the other. Compassion, I feel for the other. What that is saying is that you have the capacity to touch their pain, but you don't completely merge with it. And so you still invoke your humanness, you still connect with them, but you don't become disabled, you don't become dysfunctional because there is so much pain that you carry that you can't even function properly in the world. And that's the key. The key is the balance. Now, let me give you an example of how this manifested in my life and how I found this counterbalance. In fact, I'll give you two examples. My son is half Ukrainian, and he was born exactly 1 week after the war in Ukraine started. For the first several months, I was watching the news every single day, many times a day, and I was becoming so invested in the destruction, in the devastation, in the loss of young human life on both sides, really. And it was just excruciating for me until I decided to step back a little bit and still feel for what was happening, but I wasn't getting merged with it to a point where that was the main experience I had. The other example is this. 10 years ago, I couldn't eat meat anymore, and I'm coming from a background of competitive natural bodybuilding, so I'd eaten quite a bit of meat for decades before that. And so 10 years ago, I said, no, I cannot go to the store anymore and pick up one of these packages that are so neatly packed and it feels like they're coming from a factory. I have to know what's happening. I have to know what suffering is like for the animal. So I sought a way to be a part of the killing of an animal. A friend of mine was doing a humane killing of a hog. And so he invited me not only to watch, but to be a part of the killing of the animal. And as scared as I was, I said yes. And so I was a part of that experience, and I was the one that caused the death of the animal. And I saw what suffering and what sacrifice looks like. I took it so deep in my body that for almost a year after that, I couldn't eat meat from a large animal, anything larger than a chicken, and even smaller animals like chicken. I could only eat very rarely because I saw and I embodied that suffering. I saw that sadness of a life going out. And so that changed. This is a part of nature. This is a part of life. Lions eat gazelles every day. This is what nature is like. This is normal in nature. So the key is to touch the pain. That's the human side. It allows us to get connected. It allows us to feel human and to be human. But it's not to get involved into the pain where it debilitates us. That's the key, really. I'll give you even a deeper side to this. From a very human perspective, suffering of others is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Our values, our ethics say it's wrong. But from the highest universal perspective, from the perspective of consciousness itself, it's a part of the game. I will take this even deeper by saying that my personal belief is that some people need to experience their pain and suffering so that their soul can get the lessons that the soul needs to get. So you don't have to believe this, but it might help. So that's why I'm mentioning it here. But let me make this even more practical for you. When you find yourself being in the verge of being sucked into empathy and too much suffering and too much pain that you can carry, immediately ask yourself, is there anything I can do about it right now? And if your answer is yes, then do it. Do it right now. Allow that empathy to fuel your compassionate action. But keep your center. Allow compassion to support you in keeping your center, in keeping yourself grounded. But if the answer is no, then feel for them, but don't feel with them. Don't get completely merged with their pain. So the TLDR is this: empathy without compassion drowns you. So find the balance. I already gave you the tools. Feel some of the pain, but not to the point where it makes you useless. Some pain makes you feel connected. It makes you feel human. Too much of it makes you useless. It just adds to the suffering of the world. Find the balance. That's it. I'll see you next week.